Hi Scott, I thought I would give you some feedback using video on your Module 2 P level project. And I have your cover sheet or your worksheet right here so that I can kind of go off of that. So everything was included that needed to be included, which is that. I thought that a really nice summary of some of the communication, listening, and spoken language things that the student is working on through her IEP. A question here about JD uses a combination of ASL with support of an interpreter and auditory oral. It's really sometimes confusing to know exactly what a student is using. So if it's simultaneous communication, so using speech plus sign, I usually talk about that as being either signed English or conceptually accurate signed English in terms of expressive. Perhaps ASL signs, concepts, linguistics are used to help make things conceptually accurate, but it's a really, I know it's a kind of a touchy area, but I think it's kind of important that we be accurate about that because it helps me get kind of a picture, and then it also helps set up what the expectations are for the student in terms of her communication. This was helpful in terms of her IEP goals, really looking at following direction, responding to questions, and using more than 5 words and using them in grammatically correct sentences. And so it's interesting to think about how do these kind of align with what you may have identified in the P level. I thought this was a great paragraph. It just really was a nice description, good use of examples. All of these examples were quite good. You just had a lot of good detail. And it really helped me understand, I felt like I got the impression after reading all of this that you're really understanding the linguistic aspects that are presented in the P levels. Sometimes they're hard to translate into real, things that you could see and you could recognize because they're a little conceptual. But you did a nice job of making that that alignment. And then it looks like you pulled out cohesion and reference as the 2 areas that you thought were priorities. It may be that there are others, but and you have the Common Core, which is what at her grade level. That's good. And so these were, what I liked is that you pulled from the P level and you pulled from Common Core to kind of put them together. You had, I think when you say 3 times a day, I can measure that. I can't. The first one I can measure. The second one is a little harder to measure, and it was a little bit more confusing because I didn't know what you meant by proper words. Whether that meant proper nouns, like you mentioned names of people, or whether you meant accurate vocabulary, using the vocabulary words that really reflected the meaning that she was trying to convey. And so, and then when you did 8 out of 10, that was also kind of confusing. So I think this one needs some work, and that's really what we're doing in Module 3, is beginning to think about, kind of clarifying these things in line with the curriculum, right? And so you've already got some of the Common Core standards that you're looking to help you contextualize. And then we're also in Module 3 trying to figure out, are we going to do this explicitly? Are we going to teach this skill explicitly and then try and embed it? Or is it far enough along that we can just try and embed and support it? But we do have to think about how we're going to teach. These contexts tell us where we might work or how we might kind of work it into the curriculum. But now we got to think about how am I going to teach these skills, because sometimes it does take some explicit instruction. And so I do ask some questions about measuring that. Overall, you had, again, you had all the, I should have that plus too, and that plus, because you had all the things you needed. There is a little confusion about how to assign a P level. So, and there is this idea of using your professional judgment. And so you had 3 P level 3 skills, and you had a couple that you didn't check. And I'm going to wonder if those might not be present, but you need a little bit more time to find and to look for them. And then if that's the case, then you looked at P level 4. And P level 4, you had, let's see, you had all but 2 of P level 4 checked that she was demonstrating or showing that she could do. And so when you assign the P level, you have a base P level. And I would say her base P level, if you kind of assume, again, using some judgment and kind of keep looking, that those level 3 skills are in place developmentally. And then so that her base level was P level 3, but then she has more than 50% of P level 4, so that gives her a plus. And so this is on page 33 of the P level of your Starting with Assessment spiral book. And so I would say that hers is a P level 3 plus, and that is what I would assign her using the rules of the P levels. And so I think you did a great job on this. I think, like I say, what I'm most concerned about is I want you to know what those skills are. I want you to know how to recognize them, how to begin to clarify some goals and some objectives to work toward. And then in Module 3, we're just going to firm it up a little bit, firm up your goals and your objectives and try and contextualize them within the curriculum, and then think about how, where, with whom, what's your approach, and then within what context you would actually teach these skills. And will you do it explicitly? Will you embed it? Will you do it one-on-one? Will you do it with a group? So that is it. Nice job.